The morning sun had just risen over the Pacific Ocean when every screen on Earth went dark. Then, simultaneously, they all displayed the same image. A massive ship hovering in the sky above Earth's atmosphere. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The vessel stretched for miles, surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. Captain Dae-yoon was on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's most advanced warship, when the alerts began flooding in. He stood frozen, watching through the viewport as the alien vessel simply appeared from nowhere. No warning, no gradual approach. One moment space was empty, the next moment this monster filled the sky. "All our defense satellites just went offline," reported his tactical officer, her voice shaking. Before Dae-yoon could respond, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect English, though the tone carried something mechanical and cold. "Humans of Earth, we are the Galactic Dominion Council. We speak for 12 advanced civilizations that govern this region of space. You will listen, down on Earth's surface." Dr. Myung rushed into the United Earth Command Center where Admiral Giwon was already coordinating responses. Myung was the best xenolinguistics expert humanity had, though until this moment she had only studied theoretical alien languages. Now her skills were desperately needed. "Can we communicate with them?" Admiral Giwon asked. "They're communicating with us," Myung said, pointing at the main screen where a creature now appeared. It stood on multiple legs, its body covered in a hard shell that gleamed like polished metal. Compound eyes regarded the camera with what seemed like contempt. "I am Speaker Vex of the Council," the creature announced. "Your species has been observed. Your expansion into space has been noted. Under galactic law, all new civilizations must submit to Council authority and pay tribute for the privilege of existence in our domain." Ambassador Hyunwoo, who had been summoned from the diplomatic corps, stepped forward. "We are pleased to make contact with other intelligent life. Perhaps we can discuss terms of mutual cooperation, and you will not discuss," Vex interrupted. "You will comply. Earth will provide 40% of all resources, including metals, energy, and technological patents. Additionally, 20% of your population will be conscripted for labor in council facilities. These terms are non-negotiable. You have 30 standard days to prepare the first shipment." The command center erupted in angry voices. Admiral Guan raised her hand for silence. "And if we refuse?" Vex's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Refusal is not possible. Observe." Every orbital defense platform humanity had built suddenly sparked and died. Dae-yoon watched from the Indomitable as the weapons that protected Earth simply stopped working. No explosions. No damage. They just turned off, as easily as someone flipping a switch. "That was a demonstration of our power," Vex continued. "Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your technology is laughable. We have given this ultimatum to 246 species before you. None have refused. Comply, and your people will live as servants. Resist, and you will be pacified. The choice is simple." The transmission ended. The alien ship remained in the sky, a constant reminder of the threat hanging over humanity. "Admiral." Guan immediately called an emergency meeting of Earth's unified government. Leaders from every nation gathered in the command center, their faces showing fear, anger, and disbelief. "We cannot fight them," said one delegate. "You saw what they did to our defenses. Cannot submit to slavery," countered another. "This is our planet, our people." Ambassador Hunhua tried to find middle ground. "Perhaps if we negotiate, offer smaller tribute, show we're willing to cooperate." They said the terms were non-negotiable. Myung reminded everyone. She had been studying the transmission, analyzing every word and gesture. "I don't think they expect resistance. This is a routine transaction for them. They show up, make demands, take what they want." Captain Dae-yoon had been called down from his ship to attend the meeting. He stood near the back, his uniform still crisp despite the chaos of the day. When Admiral Juwon asked for military assessment, he spoke plainly. "Our weapons didn't work. They disabled everything without even trying. If we fight with what we have now, we lose. Badly." "Then what do you suggest?" Admiral Juwon asked. Dayon met her eyes. I suggest we buy time. We tell them we're preparing the tribute. We ask questions, stall, act like we're complying. Meanwhile, we figure out how to fight. Fight with what? Someone demanded. You just said our weapons are useless. Our current weapons, Dayon corrected. But we're humans. We adapt. We innovate. Give our engineers and scientists time to study what we've seen. Find weaknesses. Develop new approaches. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Admiral Giwan made the decision. Officially, Earth would begin preparing the tribute in negotiating terms. Unofficially, every military research facility, every weapons lab, every brilliant mind humanity could gather would work on one goal. Finding a way to fight back, Ambassador Hunwoo was chosen to be the public face of cooperation. He began sending messages to the council ship, asking for clarification on tribute details, requesting meetings to discuss logistics, raising questions about how the resources would be transferred, anything to buy more time. Dr. Myung worked day and night studying the alien language and technology. She analyzed every second of the transmission, looking for clues about their capabilities and limitations, Captain. Dayon returned to his ship and quietly began gathering officers he trusted. If war was coming, they needed to be ready. Meanwhile, the alien ship waited in orbit, patient and terrible. Down on Earth, people went about their lives in a strange state of tension. Everyone knew the aliens were there. Everyone knew what they had demanded. Protests erupted in some cities. Prayer vigils formed in others. Some people panicked and fled to remote areas, as if distance would save them. But in secret military installations, in research laboratories, in the minds of Earth's best and brightest, a different response was taking shape. Humanity had been given a choice between submission and destruction. They were beginning to consider a third option, resistance at all costs. Admiral Giwan stood alone in her office late that night, looking at reports from across the globe, resources being quietly stockpiled, scientists proposing wild theories, soldiers volunteering for dangerous missions not yet planned. She thought about the aliens' words, 246. Species had received this ultimatum before. She smiled grimly. They've never met humans before, she whispered to the empty room. 3 weeks had passed since the Council's ultimatum. To anyone watching from space, Earth appeared to be complying. Massive warehouses were being constructed, resources were being gathered and cataloged. Ambassador Hunhua sent daily reports to the Council ship, detailing Earth's progress and preparing the tribute, but beneath this facade, humanity was preparing for war on the lunar surface. In a research facility buried deep within the rock, Engineer Sung-ho was working on something the Council had never seen before. He wasn't trying to copy alien technology. Instead, he was thinking about the simplest, most brutal ways to hurt an enemy in space. They have shields, he explained to his team, pointing at holographic displays. Advanced energy barriers that stop our missiles and lasers, but shields are designed to stop energy weapons and explosive devices. What if we just throw rocks at them? His assistant looked confused. Rocks. Dense metal rods, Sung-ho clarified. Tungsten, specifically. We accelerate them to a significant fraction of light speed using magnetic rails. No explosives. No complex targeting systems. Just mass and velocity. Simple physics says they'll punch through almost anything. The team got to work. They had 7 days before the tribute deadline. Meanwhile, Dr. Yoonji was proposing something far more dangerous in a secure lab on Earth. She stood before a panel of military officials and scientists, her presentation glowing behind her. Our slipstream drives let us travel faster than light by creating a bubble in space-time, she began. But what if we collapse that bubble deliberately, while near an enemy ship? The resulting spatial distortion would be catastrophic. Admiral Juwan, watching via secure link, raised an eyebrow. You're talking about turning our own ships into bombs. One-way trips, Yoonji admitted. But one ship could take out a dozen enemy vessels. Maybe more. The room fell silent. Finally, Admiral Juan spoke. Develop it, but mark those ships clearly. Only volunteers. In orbit, Captain Dayun was conducting quiet tests with the Indomitable. The Council had disabled their weapons, true, but they hadn't destroyed them. Dayun's engineers had been taking apart every system, studying what the aliens had done. It's like a software lock, his chief engineer reported. They sent a signal that shut down our systems. But if we completely rebuild the firing mechanisms, use different protocols, isolated systems, they might work again, Dayon finished. How long? For the whole fleet? We'd need months. For your ship? 3 days. You have to, Dayon said. Dr. Myong had made a breakthrough of her own. With help from Agent Min Siak, Earth's best intelligence operative, she had hacked into data systems aboard one of the Council's probes. What she found changed everything. They haven't fought a real war in over 800 years, she announced at the Secret War Council meeting. Every species they've encountered has surrendered after the initial demonstration. Their military exists more for show than combat. Agent Minsiok pulled up more stolen data. Their tactics are rigid, following ancient protocols. They rely entirely on their technological advantage. Ship crews are poorly trained. Many are conscripts from conquered species with no loyalty to the Council. They've won through fear, Admiral Juan said slowly. Not through actual military superiority, Zachary Myong confirmed. But here's the concerning part. They have numbers. Thousands of ships spread across their territory. Even if individual ships are vulnerable, the sheer quantity could overwhelm us. Colonel Borum, a Special Forces commander with sharp eyes and scars from Earth's last conflicts, spoke up. Then we don't fight fair. We hit fast, hit hard, and disappear. Make them afraid of us. Over the next week, Earth's military transformed. Special Forces teams trained for zero-gravity boarding actions. Pilots practiced flying in ways no military doctrine had ever taught erratic. Unpredictable, using asteroids and debris as cover. Conventional tactics were thrown out. If the Council expected a traditional battle, humanity would give them chaos. Ambassador Hunwoo played his role perfectly. He sent increasingly detailed questions to the Council. How should resources be packaged? What quality standards must be met? Could the deadline be extended by just a few days to ensure proper preparation? The Council, arrogant and patient, answered each question and granted a small extension. They had no idea they were being studied. Every communication was analyzed. Every response revealed more about their psychology, their assumptions, their weaknesses. On the tribute deadline day, Ambassador Hyunwoo requested one final meeting with Speaker Vex. The alien appeared on screen, its compound eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The tribute is prepared, Vex asked. We have prepared something, Hyunwoo replied carefully. But first, I must ask, is there truly no room for negotiation? No possibility of reduced tribute or alternative arrangements? None, Vex stated. Compliance is mandatory. Resistance is futile. This is the way of the galaxy. You are not special humans. You are simply the latest to join the order we have created, Si Hunwoo said quietly. Then he looked directly at the camera. Then I regret to inform you that Earth's answer is no. We will not pay tribute. We will not submit to slavery. We refuse. Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly in what was clearly shock. You refuse? Do you not understand what will happen? We will send a punishment fleet. Your cities will burn. Your people will suffer. Perhaps Hyunwoo acknowledged, but we will suffer free. You said we are not special. You're wrong. Every species is special. Every civilization deserves to chart its own path. You've forgotten that because no one has stood up to you in centuries. That ends today. Admiral Jiwon had been waiting for this moment. As soon as Hyunwoo finished speaking, she activated a system that broadcast his next words not just to the Council ship, but to every Council communication frequency they had identified. To all the species of the galaxy, Hyunwoo said, his voice steady and strong. Humanity has been given a choice between submission and destruction. We choose neither. We choose resistance. We choose freedom. If you are watching this from a conquered world, know that defiance is possible. The Council can be challenged. We may fall, but we will show you it can be done. The transmission ended. For a moment, silence filled the command center. Then, from every station, from every ship in Earth's fleet, from military bases across the planet and its colonies, came the sound of personnel cheering. Speaker Vex appeared on screen again. His calm demeanor shattered. You have made a terrible mistake. A punishment fleet of 50 warships is being dispatched. They will arrive in 48 hours. When they do, you will beg for the mercy you have just rejected. Let them come, Admiral Guan said simply. We'll be waiting. The Council ship in orbit suddenly began moving, positioning itself for the arrival of reinforcements. Down on Earth, final preparations accelerated. Engineer Sung Ho's kinetic weapons were loaded onto every ship that could carry them. Dr. Yunji's volunteer crews boarded their modified vessels, knowing they would not return. Colonel Borum's Special Forces teams performed final equipment checks. Captain? Daeon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching as Earth's fleet took up positions. They were outnumbered. Their technology was inferior. By every logical calculation, they should lose. But logic didn't account for desperation. It didn't account for innovation. Most importantly, it didn't account for humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender 40-8 hours until the Council fleet arrived. 48 hours to prepare for a battle that would determine humanity's future. Everyone knew the odds. Everyone understood the stakes. On the lunar base, Sung Ho loaded the last kinetic projectile and whispered, "Come and take it." The Council punishment fleet arrived exactly on schedule, appearing in space near Earth's outer asteroid belt. 50 warships, each one dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unstoppable. On Earth, Admiral Giwan watched the display screens with cold calculation. They're moving in a standard approach pattern, she noted. Just like Myong predicted. No variation, no adaptation. Captain Daeyun was aboard the Indomitable, positioned behind Earth's moon along with the rest of humanity's visible fleet. They looked small and frightened, exactly as they were meant to look. The Council fleet saw them and adjusted course, preparing to sweep them aside before bombarding Earth. What the Council didn't see were the 30 smaller ships hidden in the asteroid belt. Commander Taijin commanded one of these stealth vessels, holding position in the shadow of a massive rock. His ship was painted black, all emissions dampened, running on minimal power. Around him, 29 other ships waited in similar hiding spots. All units, this is Taijin, he whispered into the communication system. Hold position. Wait for the signal. The Council fleet advanced, and their commander sent a message to Earth. Your defense fleet is pathetic. Surrender now, and the punishment will be reduced. Resist, and we will turn your planet's surface to glass. Admiral Giwan responded with a single word, no. The Council ships opened fire first, launching energy weapons at Earth's defensive positions. Captain Daeon's fleet scattered, moving exactly as planned. They weren't trying to fight head-on. They were drawing the enemy in, making them commit to attack patterns. Now, Admiral Guan said quietly, Commander Taijin's stealth fleet erupted from the asteroids. Their ships were small and fast, loaded with Engineer Sung Ho's kinetic weapons. They accelerated hard, coming at the Council fleet from behind and below, from angles the larger ships hadn't been watching. Taijin ordered. Thousands of tungsten rods launched into space, accelerated to tremendous speed by magnetic rails. They were simple weapons, no explosives, no guidance systems, just dense metal traveling at a fraction of light speed. The Council's energy shields, designed to stop lasers and missiles, did nothing against solid projectiles, moving with such mass and velocity. The rods punched through shields. Like they weren't there. They tore through hull plating. 3 Council ships simply shattered, their structural integrity failing instantly. 5 more suffered critical damage, atmosphere venting into space, as their crews scrambled for emergency systems. What? What is this? The Council commander's voice cracked with shock. These are primitive kinetic weapons. They shouldn't work. Surprise! Specialist Hannah said from her station on Earth, while the Council commander was distracted by the kinetic attack. She had been working on something else. With help from Agent Mincyok's intelligence about Council systems, she launched a cyber attack directly into their fleet network. Council ships suddenly found their coordination systems failing. Friend-Dorfo identification went haywire. Navigation became confused. Their perfect formation dissolved into chaos as ships struggled to determine what was happening. Now, Captain Daeyun led the Indomitable forward, along with Earth's main fleet. Their weapons had been rebuilt, using isolated systems the Council couldn't disable remotely. Missiles and railguns opened fire, targeting the damaged and confused enemy ships. The battle turned savage. Council ships, larger and more powerful individually, struggled against Earth's unconventional tactics. They expected formation warfare, ship-to-ship duels decided by superior firepower. Instead, humanity's ships swarmed like angry bees, attacking from multiple directions, using debris and destroyed ships as cover. Dr. Yunji's special weapon activated next. 5 modified human ships, crewed by volunteers who knew they weren't coming back, charged directly at Council vessel concentrations. As they reached their targets, the slipstream drives engaged and then deliberately collapsed. Reality itself seemed to tear. The spatial distortions created by collapsing faster than light bubbles ripped through normal space. Council ships caught in the effect were pulled apart at the molecular level. One volunteer ship took out 4 enemy vessels. Another got 6 before the distortion faded. For Earth, came the final transmission from one of the volunteer crews. Before their ship disappeared into the distortion they had created, the Council fleet was reeling now. They had expected easy victory. Instead, they were dying. Their commander tried to rally them, ordering defensive formations. But Specialist Hannah's cyber attack had corrupted their coordination too badly. Ships collided with each other trying to regroup. Colonel Borum made his move then. While the battle raged in space, his Special Forces teams launched from hidden positions in small, fast-boarding craft. They targeted damaged Council ships, ones with hull breaches and failing systems. The craft locked onto damaged sections and cut through, scourging soldiers in armored suits. The Council crews weren't prepared for boarding actions. Most species in the galaxy had abandoned such tactics centuries ago, considering them too primitive. They panicked as human soldiers moved through their corridors, capturing control rooms and engineering sections. Borum himself led the assault on a Council command ship. His team moved fast, using weapons designed for shipboard combat. They encountered resistance from the ship's security forces, but these were poorly trained and relied entirely on technology rather than tactics. Bridge secured, Borum reported after an intense firefight. We have prisoners in their command computers. Captain Junho, commanding the defense forces at Proxima Station, Earth's farthest colony, faced his own battle. A separate Council force had attacked there, expecting to find an easy target. Instead, Junho had spent weeks preparing guerrilla defenses. When the Council troops landed on the station, they found corridors rigged with improvised explosives, ambush points at every corner, and defenders who knew every inch of their home ground. The Council soldiers used too overwhelming firepower, solving every problem. Couldn't adapt to close-quarters combat in unfamiliar territory? They'd fight without honor, one captured Council officer complained. We fight to win, Junho replied simply. Back at Earth, the main battle was reaching its conclusion. Of the 50 Council ships that had arrived so confidently, 35 were destroyed. 12 had been captured by boarding teams or had surrendered when their systems failed. Only 3 managed to escape, jumping to faster-than-light speeds and fleeing. But victory had come at a cost. 18 human ships were destroyed. Thousands of crew members dead. The volunteer crews who had piloted the slipstream weapons would never return. Parts of Earth's orbital infrastructure lay in ruins, and debris from the battle would be hazardous for years. Admiral Giwan stood in the command center, looking at the damage reports and casualty lists. Around her, people were celebrating the victory. They had done the impossible, defeated a Council fleet. but she felt the weight of every life lost. Captain Dayon brought the Indomitable back to dock, his ship scarred and damaged but intact. As he walked through the corridors, he passed crew members who looked exhausted but alive. He thought about the frigate that had been destroyed protecting his vessel during the battle. All hands lost. Dr. Myong was already interrogating captured council officers, learning everything she could. The intelligence was valuable, but also concerning. "The council is already summoning more ships," she reported. "This was just a punishment fleet. Their main armada is massive, over 2,000 ships." "Then we'd better start preparing," Admiral Guan said grimly. This was just the first battle. The captured council officers couldn't understand what had happened. Their technology was superior. Their ships were larger. They should have won easily. One officer, a being with tentacles and multiple eyes, spoke to Dr. Myong during interrogation. "How did you defeat us? Your weapons are primitive. Your tactics are barbaric. You should not have won." Myong smiled slightly. "That's exactly why we won. You expected us to fight like you? We didn't. You've been using the same tactics for centuries, against enemies who are too afraid to resist properly. We're not afraid. We're angry." News of the battle spread across human space and beyond. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets, aware they had won a victory, but uncertain of what came next. On conquered worlds across the Council's empire, in hidden places where the oppressed whispered to each other, word spread. Humanity had resisted and won. In the command center, Admiral Juwan addressed her staff. "This changes everything. The Council will come with everything they have now. We've humiliated them, shown their weakness. They can't let that stand." She paused, looking at each person. "We've proven we can fight. Now we have to prove we can win a war." 2 months after the first battle, the Council's main armada arrived. Over 2,000 ships appeared in space around Earth's solar system, forming a blockade that cut off all the human colonies from each other. This wasn't a punishment fleet. This was the full might of the Galactic Empire, come to crush the species that dared to resist. Captain Dayoon, now promoted to Commodore and commanding a small battle group, watched from a hidden position in the outer system. "They're not attacking immediately," he noted. "They're surrounding us, cutting off supplies. They plan to starve us out." Admiral Juwan understood the strategy. Earth's colonies needed supplies from each other. Proxima Station needed food from Earth. The lunar bases needed water from the mining colonies. The asteroid manufacturing centers needed workers and materials from everywhere. Cut those connections and humanity's resistance would collapse from within. But the Council made a mistake. They spread their vast fleet thin to maintain the blockade, dividing their forces into smaller groups. They still thought in terms of overwhelming technological superiority, not considering that the prey might bite back. Director Yuna, head of Earth's diplomatic corps, had been working on something the military leaders didn't know about until recently. She had been making contact with other species under Council rule, reaching out in secret to the enslaved races that crewed many Council ships. "The Velthera want to help us," she reported in a classified briefing. "They're a reptilian species that was conquered 400 years ago. They make up nearly 30% of the Council's ship crews, working in engineering and maintenance roles." Dr. Myong had worked with Yuna to establish communications. They hate the Council. Their homeworld was stripped of resources. There, people were scattered across the Empire as forced labor. They've been waiting for a chance to resist. "Can we trust them?" Admiral Guan asked. "Can we afford not to?" Yuna countered. "The Velthera can sabotage ships from within, disable weapons at critical moments, feed us intelligence. Council thinks their conquered species are broken and obedient. They're wrong." Another species, the Kryn, also made contact. They were an aquatic people who had been defeated and absorbed into the Empire. They worked in navigation and communication roles across the Council fleet. Agent Minseok coordinated with them, creating a secret network that would share intelligence about Council fleet movements. Meanwhile, researcher Ji-hoon made a crucial discovery while studying the captured Council technology. "Their shields operate on a rotating frequency pattern," he explained, showing complex equations. but the pattern is standard across their entire fleet. If we can predict the frequency at any given moment, we can tune our weapons to slip through. Engineer Sung-ho immediately began adapting weapon systems. It won't work for long. They'll change the pattern once they realize what we're doing. But for a few battles, we'll be able to hurt them much worse than they expect. The Council's strategy of blockade and starvation seemed to be working at first. Supplies on the colonies began running low. There were protests on Earth, with some factions demanding surrender before more people died. But others grew more determined, organizing rationing systems and finding creative ways to stretch resources. Then Commodore Tae-yoon began his campaign of hit-and-run attacks. His orders were simple: never fight on the Council's terms. Fast, strike hard, and disappear before they could respond effectively. His battle group would emerge from faster-than-light travel, target a small Council patrol, destroy it quickly with the new shield-penetrating weapons, and jump away before reinforcements arrived. They didn't try to hold territory or win decisive battles. They just kept hurting the enemy, forcing them to chase shadows. Other human commanders copied these tactics. Captain Junho led raids from Proxima Station, using small ships to harass Council supply lines. The enemy couldn't be everywhere at once, and every time they concentrated forces to crush one attack, another would strike somewhere else. The turning point came during a raid on a Council logistics hub. Commodore Daeon's forces attacked a supply station, but they weren't there just to destroy it. They broadcast a message, one that the Velthera working on Council ships could receive. To all those who serve the Council against their will, humanity extends a hand. We fight not for conquest, but for freedom. Join us, and when this is over, all species will be free. 3 days later, a Council warship's weapon systems mysteriously failed during a battle. The Velthera crew had sabotaged them. The ship was captured, and when human soldiers boarded it, they found the Velthera workers had already secured engineering and were waiting to surrender not to humans, but to join them. We're tired of being slaves. One Velthera engineer told Dr. Myung, "Show us you can actually win, and more of us will help." More acts of sabotage followed. Ships lost power at critical moments. Navigation systems accidentally directed Council vessels into ambushes. Communication breakdowns made it impossible for the Council to coordinate their vast fleet effectively. Then came a tragedy that would change the war's tone. Lieutenant Seojin, a young officer commanding a frigate, encountered a Council flagship that was massacring a human colony transport. The transport carried civilians, families fleeing the war zone. Seojin didn't hesitate. A single frigate attacked the flagship, buying time for the transport to escape. It was suicide. Everyone knew it. His crew knew it. But they followed their captain without question. The frigate's weapons couldn't penetrate the flagship's shields for long. They lasted 8 minutes, long enough for the transport to reach safety. Then the Council flagship tore Seojin's ship apart. There were no survivors. The recording of Seojin's final transmission spread across human space. "This is Lieutenant Seojin. We're hit badly, ships breaking up. But the transport got away. Every civilian is safe. That's what matters. It's what we fight for. Tell Earth, tell everyone, never surrender. Freedom is worth any price." Seojin became a symbol. His sacrifice inspired others. More volunteers joined the military. Engineer Sung-ho named a new weapon design after him, the Seojin missile, a crude but effective weapon that any colony with basic manufacturing could produce. Soon, every human outpost was making them, turning even remote stations into defensive positions. Colonel Borum led a daring raid on a Council command station, fighting through heavy security to reach their central computer systems. Once inside, he didn't just steal intelligence. He broadcast a message directly into the Council's communication network, sending it to every ship, every station, every conquered world. The message was simple: footage of human victories, proof that the Council could be beaten, and an invitation to all enslaved species to rise up. The effect was electric. On 3 different worlds, conquered species openly rebelled against their Council overseers. The uprisings were messy and brutal, but they forced the Council to divert ships from the blockade of Earth to suppress the rebellions. "The Empire is fracturing," Agent Minseok reported. Species that have been conquered for centuries are questioning whether the Council is truly invincible. Our resistance is inspiring them. But the war was taking its toll on humanity too. Resources were nearly exhausted. The constant fighting was wearing down ships and crews. Dr. Yunji privately warned Admiral Giwan that Earth couldn't sustain a prolonged conflict. They were running out of materials to build weapons, fuel to power ships, and people to crew them. "We're like a small animal fighting a large predator," Yunji said. "We can bite and claw, make it bleed, but eventually, if the predator doesn't give up, we'll be crushed by sheer mass." The Council seemed to recognize this too. They issued a new ultimatum, broadcast across all frequencies. "Humanity, your resistance has been noted. It has cost us more than expected. But you cannot win. Surrender Earth now, and your colonies will be spared. We will take only your homeworld and leave the rest of you alive to serve. Continue fighting, and we will destroy Earth completely. You have 72 hours to comply." The message showed images of Council ships gathering, massive weapons charging, all pointed at Earth. The threat was clear and real. They had the power to turn the planet into a lifeless rock. Admiral Giwan sat alone in her office, weighing the impossible choice: surrender and lose their homeworld, or fight and risk losing everything. The War Council gathered to discuss options, but everyone knew the truth. They were out of time and nearly out of options. "There's one chance," Admiral Giwan finally said. "Desperate gamble. If it fails, we lose everything. But if we surrender, we've already lost what matters most." She began outlining a plan so bold, so reckless, that several of the military advisors thought she had gone mad. But Commodore Dayon listened and slowly began to smile. It was insane. It violated every principle of conventional warfare. It would cost thousands of lives and most of their remaining ships. It might actually work. Operation Defiant Star began at dawn. While the Council's ultimatum deadline approached, humanity launched its most desperate gambit. It wasn't just a battle plan. It was a coordinated strike across the entire galaxy, timed to happen simultaneously. Designed to break the Council Empire at its foundations, Admiral Giwan stood in Earth's command center. Surrounded by screens showing different battlefronts light years apart, "All teams report ready," she said quietly. "Execute." Across Council space, rebellions erupted. The Valthera workers, encouraged by humanity's resistance and armed with weapons smuggled by Agent Minsiak's network, seized control of their homeworld's orbital stations. The Kryn flooded the Council's communication systems with false data, creating chaos in their command structure. On 17 different worlds, enslaved species rose up simultaneously. Most wouldn't succeed in liberating themselves completely, but that wasn't the point. Each rebellion forced the Council to divert ships, to split their attention, to spread their vast fleet even thinner at Earth. 1,500 Council ships gathered for the final assault on humanity's homeworld. They had weapons capable of cracking the planet's crust. The order to fire would come when the deadline expired in 2 hours, but Commodore Dayon's fleet wasn't running or hiding this time. 300 human ships, everything Earth could field, moved to intercept. They were outnumbered 5-1. Most were damaged from previous battles, running on jury-rigged systems and sheer determination. Everyone knew the odds. It's all ships. This is Dayon. We're not fighting to win today. We're fighting to buy time. Every minute we delay is another minute for the plan to work. Make every shot count. Make them pay for every meter of space. For Earth, for freedom. Fleets clashed with savage intensity. Human ships used every trick they had learned, every adaptation engineer Sung Ho had designed. The modified shield frequencies let initial shots penetrate Council defenses, causing more damage than expected. But the Council adapted quickly, changing their shield patterns. It became a brutal slugging match. Council ships had superior firepower, but human ships fought with desperate creativity. Captain Junho's squadron used a destroyed space station as cover, luring enemy ships into weapon range and then using the wreckage as improvised projectiles. One brave crew piloted their damaged ship directly into a Council dreadnought's engine. Crippling both vessels, Engineer Sung Ho had saved his masterwork for this moment. Hidden in asteroid fields, and debris throughout the solar system were thousands of small drones, each one equipped with basic AI and simple weapons. They had been building and hiding them for months, using every scrap of material that could be spared. When Sung Ho activated them, they swarmed toward the Council fleet like angry insects. Individually, each drone was hardly a threat, but there were so many, attacking from every direction. Learning from each other's successes and adapting their tactics in real time, Council point defense systems couldn't track them all. The drones slipped through gaps in defensive fire, attaching to ships and detonating or targeting sensors and communication arrays. They didn't destroy many ships, but they created chaos and confusion, degrading the Council's ability to coordinate their overwhelming numbers. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Borum led the most audacious part of Operation Defiant Star, a small team of special forces, traveling on a captured Council ship with false identification codes, approached the Council's high command station. The station was supposedly impregnable, protected by layers of security and defensive systems. But the Council had grown arrogant over centuries of unchallenged rule. They never expected anyone to be bold enough to attack them directly at their seat of power. Borum's team used intelligence provided by the Kryn to navigate the station's security. They moved quickly through corridors, stunning guards and avoiding detection. Their target was the Council chamber itself, where the High Arbiter and the leadership of 12 species were coordinating the war. At Earth, the battle was turning against humanity. Despite their best efforts, the Council's numerical superiority was overwhelming. Ship after ship fell. Dr. Yunji watched from a command ship as the vessel she had served on 4 years was torn apart by enemy fire. The casualties were staggering. Commodore Daeon's Indomitable was badly damaged, fires burning in 3 decks, life support failing in several sections, but he kept fighting, refusing to withdraw. "We hold the line," he ordered his crew. "No matter what." Then everything changed. Colonel Borum's team breached the Council chamber. The firefight was brief and intense. Most of Borum's soldiers fell, but they reached their objective. Borum himself, wounded and bleeding, put a weapon to the High Arbiter's head. "Order your fleet to stand down," Borum commanded, "or you die here," the High Arbiter, a being of crystalline structure that had ruled for 3 centuries, trembled. "You cannot win. Even if you kill us, the fleet will destroy Earth." Borum agreed, "But you won't live to see it. And we've shown the galaxy that you can bleed. How many more species do you think will rise up once they know your leaders died to a handful of human soldiers?" Specialist Hannah, working from Earth, had been waiting for this moment. As soon as Borum had control of the Council chamber, she hacked into the station's communication system and broadcast everything across all Council frequencies. Every ship, every station. Every conquered world saw their supreme leaders held at gunpoint by humans. The psychological impact was devastating. The Council's power had always rested on the perception of invincibility. Seeing their leaders captured shattered that illusion.
"Our Council forces,"
the High Arbiter said, his voice transmitted across the galaxy. "Cease fire. Stand down." At Earth, the Council fleet hesitated. Some ships stopped firing immediately. Others continued, uncertain. The Velthora crews aboard many ships took that moment to sabotage weapon systems from within. Forcing compliance, Admiral Jawan saw the opportunity and seized it. "All Council ships. This is Admiral Jawan of United Earth's command. Your leaders have ordered you to stand down. Any ship that continues fighting will be destroyed, and your crews will be treated as rebels against your own command. Ships that withdraw immediately will not be pursued." The Council fleet began to disintegrate. Some ships retreated immediately. Others, crewed mostly by conquered species, simply shut down their weapons and waited. A few die-hard loyalists tried to continue fighting, but they were quickly overwhelmed by human forces and their own former allies. The Battle of Earth was over. Humanity had suffered catastrophic losses. 70% of their defense fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Parts of Earth bore scars from orbital strikes that got through. Thousands were dead. Entire colonies had been reduced to ruins during the fighting, but they had won. Within days, the Council Empire began to collapse. 16 species declared independence, inspired by humanity's resistance and freed by the chaos. The Velthera reclaimed their homeworld. The Kryn established a provisional government. Other species, seeing that the council could be beaten, rose up across the galaxy. Some council members tried to maintain control. But without their combined fleet and with rebellions everywhere, they couldn't. The empire that had ruled for over 800 years fragmented in weeks. Earth and the newly freed species established the Free People's Coalition, a voluntary association based on mutual cooperation rather than domination. Ambassador Heinwu helped draft the Declaration of Galactic Rights, establishing principles of freedom and self-determination. The costs of victory were heavy. Commodore Dayun walked through the memorial gardens being built on Earth's moon, looking at names carved in stone. Lieutenant Seogen's name was there along with thousands of others. The volunteers who had piloted the slipstream weapons, the crew members who had died in battle, the civilians caught in crossfire. Was it worth it? Dr. Myong asked, standing beside him. Dayan was quiet for a long moment. Freedom always costs blood. The question isn't whether it was worth it. The question is whether we honor the sacrifice by building something better. Admiral Jawan became the first Secretary General of the Free People's Coalition, working to help liberated species rebuild and defend their new freedom. Engineer Sung Ho dismantled most of his weapons, keeping only defensive systems. And focused on helping reconstruction efforts, Dr. Yunji continued her research, but refused to weaponize slipstream technology ever again. She had seen too much death caused by her inventions. Colonel Borum, decorated as a hero, led peacekeeping forces helping stabilize newly freed worlds. Captain Adun Ho returned to Proxima Station and helped rebuild it, turning it from a military outpost into a thriving civilian colony. Agent Minsiok worked to establish intelligence networks not for war, but to provide early warning if any species tried to rebuild an empire. On Earth, people struggled to return to normal life, but normal had changed forever. They had faced extinction and survived. They had shown the galaxy that tyranny could be resisted. Children grew up learning about the war, about the sacrifices made, about the price of freedom, the former council chamber. Now the Coalition Assembly hosted representatives from 30 free species. Admiral Juwan stood at the podium, addressing them all, her words broadcast across the galaxy.